Family estrangement is one of the most interesting topics of family therapy and family treatment. One of the reasons why is because family estrangement isn't as simple as it seems. A lot of people believe being estranged from their family has a lot to do with a disagreement, has a lot to do with some kind of hardcore injustice, some kind of severe trauma, substance abusing or drug addict parents, or something of the kind. But family estrangement in the mind of most people doesn't seem to consider that everyday normal people go through family estrangement. I always say this on my channel, that there are words in society that has been kind of, developed within us, right? We've learned how to see family in an incorrect way. And some of the things that I'm getting ready to mention here is probably things that has either offended you or just made your head spin, right? Things like family is everything. You have nothing if you have family. Blood is thicker than water, or honor your mother and your father, right? Those kind of things are okay within their reasonable place, right? We don't want to dismiss them 100%. We do want to make sure that we are putting them in their proper context. However, the best way to approach any kind of family estrangement is with knowledge, education, and patience. And so in order to learn how, your family functions, in order to learn who you are or who you want to be, it's important to understand just exactly what family estrangement is and how to unwire or undo those unhealthy preconceived notions about family. But before we jump in, let me briefly introduce myself in case you were new. My name is Tamara. I'm internationally and board certified in trauma therapy. I'm licensed in mental health. I specialize in treating children, teens, and families, as well as adults who are dealing with trauma. Let's go ahead and jump in. I recently did a live YouTube video and chat where I really just touched the surface of family estrangement. I want to highlight the bigger picture issues that surrounds walking away from your family. There are very good reasons in most dysfunctional families for why a family member may take drastic measures and completely walk away, block, or refuse to deal with certain family members. It is not an abnormal thing. I think it's more common than we realize. The issue is, number one, there's not a lot of family therapists who understands family estrangement. Number two, there aren't a lot of books on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com that can help you understand family estrangement from a psychotherapist perspective. You're probably going to get somebody who's experienced it themselves, or some kind of peer educator or advocate who wrote a book, or you may Google family estrangement online and come up with a few articles that have been written here and there. But the topic of family estrangement is largely unknown to the wider society. And that does one thing we don't want it to do. It often causes people who are suffering within their families to stick in that unhealthy family, to be a part of that unhealthy family, and to just kind of swallow all the issues of the family and keep moving along in a way that's probably not ultimately healthy. There are many reasons why you may stick around in your family and continue to deal with the heartache, but that's not the healthiest thing to do, right? So it's helpful, I think, to always remind yourself that family estrangement and family separation is a normal process. It is not as abnormal as some people would say that it is. And unfortunately, walking away from your family is probably, although the last thing that you want to do, it's probably the healthiest thing that you need to do. So let me kind of tease apart here what family estrangement is for you. So family estrangement is not the process of walking away from your family for an entire month and going back, or walking away from your family and still communicating with them in a variety of ways. Family estrangement is the loss of a previously existing relationship. It's the loss of a previously existing relationship. You had a relationship in the past. It seemed to be going okay. And now the status of the relationship with this parent or family member has shifted. And so therefore you have to shift, right? And maybe that shift for you means leaving your family and never looking back. There are also some people who, stick around with their family until they get tired enough to leave, and then they leave, and then they miss their family, or they feel guilty, or they feel lonely, and then they go back to the family once again, only to be further abused, hurt, and confused. So family estrangement really does start with that common and practical definition of a loss of a previously existing relationship. Now, family estrangement can also include the loss of quality. So what I mean by that, and here's my live chat up here, by the way, if you want to go back and see that live chat, but what I mean by this is the quality of that relationship has dissipated. After you've walked away from your family and you've said goodbye to them, the quality of your communication has diminished, right? So you're not as loving as maybe you were with your family. Your family is not as giving as maybe you were in the past, or they were in the past, I should say. Maybe there's not a lot of, concern for the other family member, or for you from the other family member, right? From someone in your family. Maybe there's just a loss in how you guys communicate, right? A loss of touch with each other's lives and worlds, belief systems, cultural beliefs, the list goes on. So the quality of the relationship disappears when you are estranged from your family. Now, quantity is also something that you can use to measure family estrangement. How many times do you see your family while you have separated, right? Do you, have any experience of leaving your family, going back for holidays, weddings, and funerals, and then going back into your little corner of the world? Perhaps, and sometimes that does happen, but again, that quantity is going to determine whether this is family estrangement or not. Maybe you only see them during holidays and nothing more. And so that in and of itself, seeing a family member for holidays alone, weddings alone, funerals alone, kind of diminishes that quality as well. So you lose both of those things when your family becomes estranged, or you walk away yourself. You lose the quantity, how many times you see them or talk to them, relate to them, and you lose, the quality of that relationship as well. So what's going on here, right? Why does family estrangement happen? Because it's not just an oppositional, defiant, or very angry, judgmental, critical person in the family who's just decided to walk away, right? That's not all there is to this situation. There's a lot of triggers to family estrangement, or to walking away from your family. An example of one reason why this happens would be disagreement, right? Sharp disagreement. You disagree on values. You disagree on morals. You disagree on culture, politics, raising a family, dealing with a family. You disagree with how to manage an argument or manage a confrontation. There's just this inability to see eye to eye or to come together on something. And when that happens repeatedly over time, family estrangement is likely, because you're going to get tired and walk away from that, right? An example of disagreement at the severe level would be maybe your father isn't in agreement with your wife, and so therefore he didn't attend the wedding, he didn't attend any of the events or birthdays or holidays after that, and the birth of your newborn baby was ignored as well because he doesn't approve of your wife. So there we go. There's an example of sharp disagreement at a severe level that has separated you, and you've lost the quality of that relationship with your father. Another example is misaligned goals. Maybe you have a goal to become a judge one day, or to become a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist or an educator, or maybe you're going to travel the world, and your family or your parent highly disagrees, right? So a misalignment of goals. A misalignment of goals can also happen if, you want to have a family, and maybe your mother or your father feels like you should study and get a career first before you have a family, right? That misalignment of goals can cause you to want to walk away. And a last example would be a loss of identity, right? You can't figure out who you are because you're buried beneath all the expectations and desires of the family or the parents around you. And so you can't see yourself, right? You can't see yourself through your own pair of glasses. because everybody else around you or your parents are trying to force you into a way of existing and being. So those are 3 examples of the smaller picture here, right? Why some people do walk away and run away in some cases. So what's the bigger picture issue here, right? What are the bigger triggers? Let's get into that right now. A bigger issue that a lot of families go through who are estranged would be, and this is you, right? This is you walking away from your family. And one of the reasons I see a lot is perfectionism, competition, and jealousy. I talk a lot about family jealousy right up here in this video. And if you want to go check this thumbnail out, you can see my other video on family jealousy. When there's a lot of perfectionism, there's a lot of jealousy and competition, it's really easy for family members to butt heads, right? Confrontation is likely, severe disagreement is likely, that misalignment of goals. There's a lot of animosity that can also be hidden underneath that perfectionism and desire to be great. In a lot of dysfunctional families, you may see 2 siblings. So let's say, for example, 2 brothers, and one brother has children and the other brother has children. And what they do is, because they never really got along and one brother is jealous of the other, once they have children, they may try to raise both of their families to compete with the other family, right? So then the cousins are competing. That's an example of that undercurrent evil, that jealousy, competition, and perfectionism that can lead to one of those brothers walking away and saying, you know what, I'm not going to deal with it. I have seen this also in situations where a family, has to endure a divorce. Mom was left by dad, right? Dad left us. Dad went and married a new woman, and she tends to be more educated, prettier, whatever. And so now the ex-wife is stuck watching all of this, and she may run away. And she may also try to manipulate the minds of her own children, adolescent, or even adult children, to see their father in an incorrect, unhealthy way. There we go again. There's that competition, there's that jealousy, and maybe even some perfectionism. Okay, so that's one thing you're likely to see. The next thing that you're likely to see is abuse or trauma bonding. It's so much easier to go with the flow, accept abuse, and deal with it. Drop the negative view of the family member who is abusing you, and just see them in happy-go-lucky lens, right? See them with rose-colored glasses and move on with life. Family estrangement often occurs because that abused person gets tired of being abused, and they say, I don't want to be in this. And so they run, right? They literally run for their life. Trauma bonding, like I just explained, right? It's almost like being imprisoned or held by chains, and it's hard to get out. I talk a lot about trauma bonding right up here in this video if you want to go check that out as well. But that in and of itself can really make a person feel trapped, jailed, imprisoned, and they run away. They have to get away. They can't continue to be harmed by that abusive family member. You might also see conditional love in families where there's family estrangement. You may have had to run away from your mother, your father, your cousin, your aunt, your grandmother, whoever, because their love for you is conditional. It is dependent upon how you behave. It's dependent upon how they feel for the day. It's dependent upon who your parent is in that family, or it's dependent upon your success. It's conditional love. And so when people feel, conditionally loved, I'm going to put it that way for lack of a clinical term, then they run away, right? Because those expectations are way too high. So the best way to deal with a situation like this is to escape. And that is usually the beginning of the family estrangement. Severe triangulation is something else that you're likely to see in families that, have family estrangement, or, you're likely to see a family member walk away from severe triangulation. And what I mean by that is there's often a handful of people in a family that gossips, they control, they manipulate, they do whatever it takes and whatever they can to disrupt the peace and the stability and the equilibrium in the family. They really do pit this member against this member and that member, and they know how to stir the pot, how to confuse details, how to embellish details. and before you know it, you're standing right in the middle of this thinking, I got to get out of this, right? So family estrangement can start there as well. Addiction and substance abuse is something that, often results in family estrangement. You have a parent who's a substance abuser, or they have some kind of addiction, a sex addiction, love addiction, addiction to violence and pornography, whatever it may be. These kind of toxic and unhealthy behaviors can cause you to run away from your family, especially if this kind of a person is your parent and you're an adult child. You might just walk out the door. The next thing is a high conflict family or household. Let's say, for example, all your family knows to do is fight. They don't know how to communicate, right? They don't know how to actively listen to each other. So all you do is yell and scream and fight all the time. And that makes it really hard for anybody in that situation to grow. And so you may find yourself running away from that situation because it's going to be easier for you to see yourself, hear your own thoughts, feel your own emotions, and then grow from there. So family estrangement can happen just because you are tired of the high conflict within a family. It causes you to walk away, if not run. Siblings who are pitted against each other. This is another thing that often results in family estrangement. One sibling is pitted against another sibling. Maybe that's based on race, right? Maybe this sibling over here is not biracial, excuse me, and this sibling is, right? Or maybe this sibling over here didn't do well on the football team, but this one did over here. And so sometimes one kid is held in higher esteem than the other, or they're pitted against each other by other family members or other siblings, and sometimes even grandparents. And so that's a what am I trying to say? A confused ball of wires, you know what I mean? And so, sometimes it makes better sense to a family member to just leave. I'm just going to leave. I don't want to be pitted against my sibling. I don't want to be held at a certain level of esteem over my sibling. I'm not going to do that. And so some people just run away. Let me add in here, emotionally detached parenting is also an issue. When you have an emotionally detached parent, which I talk about right up here in this video, it's really difficult to get them to understand your emotional and psychological needs. I need you to hear me. I need you to show me unconditional love. I need you to believe me when I come to you with a situation that bothers me. I need you to validate me some days. That emotionally detached parent does not care. I have a video right here where I talk about families, but I talk specifically in this video more about parents who just don't care. And really, I'm talking about the emotionally detached parent in that video. So go ahead and check that out. But these kind of parents will cause you to run away, because what's happening there is they're not giving you what you need. They're not feeding you, right? They're not fueling you and fueling your needs. And so you're going to run away from that. Why stick around and you're being abused and emotionally and psychologically mistreated, right? Your parent or your family doesn't understand your emotional needs or your psychological needs, and you feel like you're screaming, crying, and begging, and still nobody seems to reach out to you. You're going to run away. You're going to walk away. What's the point? Let me just say a punishment for self-expression is another thing that may happen before you walk away from your family. A punishment for self-expression. We all have to express ourselves in whatever way, right? We have to express ourselves in dance, in art, in music, in writing, in our, professions and careers, whatever, right? In our singing, in our behavior. If that has been trampled over or suppressed for any reason, then that's going to cause you to want to run away, because that's a part of your character that needs to come out and flourish and live. And so when you feel cramped, when you feel, stepped upon or stepped on or condescended, you're likely going to run away from your family. It's easier, number one, you may be so hurt and so condescended by another family member that you don't see the purpose in continuing the family communication. And so you walk away, if not run away, from that kind of a family dynamic. This is an interesting topic, guys. And so, after that live chat, I thought maybe I should come back with a video that kind of breaks this down just a little bit more, because I did touch the surface of this in the live chat. I will be talking more more about this, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for being with me in today's video, guys. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. Hit that bell button so you can get notifications every time I post a live, a video, every time I add to my story, whatever. You're going to get all the notifications. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button if I didn't already say that, so you can stick around with us. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.